Experian gets sued again. That's a key reason why it's important for you to understand how to view your credit report and understand the factors that go into determining your credit score, because many times your score may be down or lower than it should be due to errors that were not made by you. Of course, your own responsibility lies in your ability to properly do certain things to maintain your credit, but it's certain things that are beyond your control, and that's what this is about. If you need assistance with taking your credit to the next level, look below this video. I got some free content and some things that will require you to invest in yourself. Either way, we're just here to help. That being said, CFPB sues Experian for sham investigations of credit report errors. Experian does not properly investigate disputes and fails to remove or reinsert errors on reports, threatening consumers' access to credit, employment, and housing. See, these are the effects that come from not so good credit. Access to certain credit or capital, employment in certain jobs, and housing in many cases. And this is a true thing. I have clients who we have great success with, but a lot of times I find myself going above them and contacting the CFPB, consumerfinance.gov, which is directly where this article came from, in order to help them apply more pressure to the entities that aren't doing their job and having these sham investigations taking place. So today, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, this was actually yesterday, depending on when you're watching this video, it's still relevant, doesn't matter. But they sued Experian, the nationwide consumer reporting agency, for unlawfully failing to properly investigate consumer disputes. The CFPB alleges that Experian does not take sufficient steps to intake, process, investigate, and notify consumers about consumer disputes, resulting in the inclusion of incorrect information on credit reports. Inaccurate or false information on consumer reports can threaten consumers' access to credit, employment, and housing. And see, when they talk about errors and inaccurate data and things of that nature, a lot of times people are like, well, it was mine, this and that. Well, this is what you got to understand. When it comes to the FCRA, which is the Fair Credit Reporting Act, they're responsible for having proper records, meaning things need to be 100% true and accurate. If it's not, then there's grounds for removal. So, that being said, there may be some things that you had some connection to, but if it's not accurate, the reporting is in error, or they can't verify it, then there's grounds for removal, and that is a pretty a good avenue to get your credit score up. Just to put it in simple terms. So errors on your report can equal increases in your score when they get cleaned up. So when consumers disputed errors on their credit reports, Experian conducted sham investigations rather than properly reviewing the disputes as required by federal law, said CFP Director RC. Credit reporting errors can have serious consequences for a family's finances, and it is critical that credit reporting giants follow the law. You see, these big entities a lot of times operate in a way that makes them appear to be too big to fail. And you got to understand they're a business. So you can't be scared to address them and apply pressure to them. They're not the government. They're not, basically doing something without making a profit. They're usually using your data and monetizing that data, and they don't care if that data is correct or not. So a lot of times these giants are not doing things in a lawful manner. And as a result, consumers, you and I, those who use the, credit, basically the credit scores to our advantage, leverage it for whatever reason, they're doing us a disservice in many cases. So that said, Experian, based in California, Costa Mesa, is one of the nation's 3 largest credit reporting conglomerates. Experian is a subsidiary of Experian PLC, LSE. Experian is the ticker symbol, which means it's a for-profit, publicly traded company, a global data broker and analytics company headquartered in Ireland. So it's a subsidiary. It's a subsidiary of an analytics company that's headquartered in Ireland. What does that say about the likeliness of your information being shared against your will or without you knowing? See, I use one of the codes known as informed use. You may have seen a video where I talk about informed use. A lot of times the information that's used on your profile was without you being informed about it. So if they're directly connected to a global data broker and analytics company that's headquartered in Ireland and you in the U.S., that says a whole lot. So don't be afraid to apply pressure. Experian maintains information on most families in America. Experian markets, advertises, sells, offers, and provides credit scores, reports credit monitoring, and other related products to consumers and third parties. Information in consumers report is provided to Experian by data furnishers, including banks, credit card companies, and debt collectors. The consumer reporting agency sells its consumer reports to creditors and businesses who are evaluating whether to offer a consumer various products, services, and opportunities such as a loan, employment, and housing. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, which is what I told you about earlier, requires that consumer reporting agencies take steps to ensure consumer reports are accurate and to conduct investigations of information disputed by consumers. The FCRA provides people multiple ways to dispute inaccurate information on their consumer reports, including by contacting consumer reporting agency directly. The FCRA also requires that consumer reporting agencies follow certain procedures before reinserting into consumer reports information that has previously been removed as the result of a dispute. I talk about this and I implement this for clients. It's a code basically known as the 5-day reinsertion code. So when they say that it's certain things that they're supposed to do, procedures they're supposed to follow before reinserting into a consumer report information that has previously been removed as a result of a dispute, that's what they're talking about, the 5-day reinsertion rule. So there's a letter that I send out, and there's a way that I address it if I'm contacting the CFPB that lets them know, hey, this was unlawfully reinserted, basically. So understand that it's certain guides or, laws and codes that are in place to your advantage. But if you don't know those codes, if they don't teach these codes, if you don't have somebody who's willing to, continue to contest and apply pressure, then you don't benefit from these codes that are in place to help you. The CFPB alleges that Experian has violated the FCRA's requirements for handling consumer disputes in numerous ways. Specifically, the CFPB alleges that Experian is harming consumers by 1. Conducting sham investigations that fail to properly address consumer disputes. When handling disputes, Experian uses faulty intake procedures and does not accurately convey all relevant information about disputes to the original furnisher. Experian routinely and uncritically accepts the original furnisher's responses to the disputed information, even when the response was improbable or illogical on its face, or when Experian has other information available that suggests the furniture is unreliable. So they're disregarding certain things, they're not going through the proper investigation, and it's not benefiting the consumer. It's not benefiting you. At the conclusion of the investigation, Experian sends consumer notices that fail to inform them of investigation results, and instead provides information that is confusing, ambiguous, incorrect, or internally inconsistent. So a lot of times they may send information and it's not clear. That's what it means to be ambiguous. It's so broad that it's like, okay, what do you actually mean? And if it's confusing to the consumer, then that doesn't do them any service. If you want to help somebody, make it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Try to speak in simple terms. And that's what I aim to do when I talk and discuss credit. I don't want to be so into the law and the code and talk about all of these statutes and things of that nature. I want you to know, hey, if it's in there, if it's inaccurate, then that's grounds for removal. Our goal is to use the codes and the laws to your advantage, not to lie or deny, but just use the codes and the laws to your advantage. Not confusing. If I give guidance on things that a person should do when it comes to how to pay their credit cards and things of that nature, I try to make it clear. And this is something that they typically don't do. Another area that they're harming consumers is by improperly reinserting inaccurate information on consumer reports. Experian has failed to implement basic matching tools that prevent or greatly reduce the likelihood of reinsertion by a new furnisher of a previously deleted trade line. Instead, Experian improperly reinserts inaccurate information into consumer reports because it fails to match newly reported information with records of previously deleted information. Consumers who have disputed the accuracy of an account and thought that their consumer report had been corrected instead see the same inaccurate information reappear on their consumer report without explanation under the name of a new furnisher. And this is a big one. They a lot of times delete it, it gets resold to another collection company, and it's still harming the person's credit profile. And then it looks as though that person didn't do what they were supposed to do. Or if they hire someone to do a particular job and it, shows up on a report, it also looks like the credit restoration company didn't do their job, is what it's looking like. Meanwhile, Experian is operating in a very unlawful manner that's harming the consumer. In addition to alleging violations of FCRA's requirements, the CFPB alleges that Experian's faulty dispute intake procedures and failure to provide furnishers with consumer submitted documentation, uncritical deference to furnishers' responses to disputed information and failure to prevent improper trade line reinsertion also violate the Consumer Financial Protection Act's prohibition on unfair acts or practices. So the enforcement action under the CFPB or the Consumer Financial Protection Act, the CFPB has the authority to take action against institutions violating consumer financial protection laws, including the FCRA and the prohibitions on unfair, deceptive, or abusive acts or practices in the CFPA, which is the act. The CFPB's lawsuit seeks to stop the company's unlawful conduct, to provide redress for harmed consumers, and the imposition of a civil money penalty, which means that individuals who have been harmed may be compensated in the form of money. So I definitely want to keep my eyes on this in the event that any clients can benefit from this, or even just to be clear, understand that they have access to hundreds of millions of data, and a lot of times these people are operating unlawfully, and as a result, it's harming the score, and it's hurting you from a monetary standpoint as well, whether you realize it or not. So, that being said, if it is paid out, it'll be paid into the CFPB's Victims Relief Fund. So keep your eye on that. This came directly from the CFPB. I just wanted to share this brief article to let you know that Experian is being sued on the behalf of consumers. Salute.